Welcome back to another episode as we dive into the mysteries of Hannah's life. Today, we meet Hannah, not just a woman, but a warrior in a battle that didn't look like one. Hannah's barrenness wasn't just a medical condition, it was a divine decision. God had shut her womb, not out of punishment, but for purpose. This was not a battle with people, but a sacred wrestling with God. She wasn't fighting people. She wasn't fighting sickness. She was wrestling with silence. Divine silence. Peninnah had children, but Hannah did not. 1 Samuel 1:2. When life delays your answer, it might be because heaven is preparing a greater assignment. What if what's not happening in your life is part of God's hidden purpose? Elkanah loved Hannah deeply, recognizing that it was the Lord who had closed her womb. He became her support, offering a shoulder to lean on and creating an environment filled with love. He never stood in the way of God's plan. Hannah was deeply loved by her husband, Elkanah. He gave her more than enough love, but he couldn't give her what only God could, a child of purpose. To Hannah he would give a double portion, because he loved her, although the Lord had not enabled her to have children. 1 Samuel 1:5. Hannah wasn't crying because her husband failed her. She was crying because heaven was quiet. Am I not better to you than 10 sons? 1 Samuel 1:8. Sometimes the people who love us can't fix our pain, because it's not about comfort, it's about calling. Even love at its best cannot replace destiny. But Elkanah's love couldn't fill a God-sized void. You can be surrounded by love and still feel empty, because only God's will can satisfy God's design. Spiritual hunger cannot be soothed with emotional comforts. Breakthrough begins when your prayer aligns with God's agenda. Hannah had been praying for years. When Hannah gave God her future, something changed. Purpose begins when we surrender our personal desires for God's kingdom. After years of sorrow, Hannah made a vow that would shift history. If you give me a son, I will give him to serve you for all his life. 1 Samuel 1:11. She didn't ask for a child just to prove a point to Peninnah. She didn't ask just to silence shame. She wasn't just asking for a baby. She was offering God her womb for his mission. She said, "You need a prophet. I need a child. Let's align." That's not just a prayer. That's a covenant. She didn't just conceive a child. She conceived a prophetic assignment. Some of us are still waiting because our prayers are still too self-centered. When we stop praying selfish prayers and start praying kingdom prayers, heaven responds. Thank you for coming this far. Let's look at the silent battles, sacred secrets, Hannah's private victory. Some victories are between you and God alone. Some victories are between you and God alone. Hannah prayed in deep agony. So quietly, in fact, Eli thought she was drunk. Her lips moved, but Eli could not hear her voice. 1 Samuel 1:13. Eli misunderstood her pain. He judged her worship because he couldn't hear her words, but it wasn't for him. It was between her and God. In that sacred silence, something broke in the spiritual realm. Some things are too holy for public discussion. That's why you don't need to explain your pain to people who aren't part of your breakthrough. She told no one the full weight of her prayer. Why? Because some visions are too holy for casual conversations. She left it with God. Hannah only spoke about the barrenness with Eli during the dedication of Samuel. I am the woman who stood here praying. The Lord answered my prayer. 1 Samuel 1:26-27. Your miracle doesn't need public approval, only divine attention. Finally, let's look at obedience as the true test of gratitude. Obedience after God answers our prayers should not be delayed. Hannah got what she prayed for, a son, a miracle, a living answer. Hannah got what she prayed for, a son, a miracle, a living answer. And she did not delay in fulfilling her vows to God. Hannah gave birth to a son and named him Samuel, meaning, I ask the Lord for him. 1 Samuel 1:20. Hannah teaches us that true faith doesn't just ask for things, it follows through. Now I give him to the Lord. He will serve the Lord all the days of his life. 1 Samuel 1:28. She didn't wait for 5 years. She didn't change her mind. She didn't negotiate the promise. She honored it. The same way she asked, she gave. She marked him from birth as belonging to God. Hannah teaches us that true faith doesn't just ask for things, it follows through. God looks for those who surrender in secret. God moves through people who keep covenant. Hannah's yes gave us Samuel. Samuel anointed kings. Samuel ushered in prophetic leadership in Israel. But all of that began with a silent cry in the temple, a private promise and a public surrender. Her silence birthed a sound that echoed through generations. Thank you for watching this far. If this series has stirred your spirit and helped you see Hannah's story in a new light, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Follow us on YouTube, TikTok, and Facebook for more biblical reflections that go beyond the surface. Now, I invite you to pause and reflect with me. Which part of Hannah's journey mirrors your own? What have you withheld that God is waiting for you to surrender? Let's continue this journey of faith together. Shalom.